Yeah. And I think I got this really great compliment that I really loved is that somebody said, because Callie's so full of doubt all the time, like she's like barreling through, but she's got all this doubt about her own ability and what she can do, that the compliment was, oh, this author must be a millennial because this is how millennials think all the time. And I took that as such a compliment because I'm not a millennial, I'm a Gen Xer. And I mean, really, we all have doubts, all of us from all the generations, all have doubts all the time. But I think it's okay to talk about your doubts now. Like I think it's people like to hear about them. So yeah.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. You get an opportunity to get an author on your show, and you're like, sometimes I have like 580 episodes. I don't get a chance to read every book. So when I do get a copy of a book from an author, I dive right in. And so this, I would tell you, is a book that stretched me as a reader. And I love it for that because Noel put out a great book, Love Camera Action into the World. And if you want to go behind the cameras and what happens after they say, cut, and all that stuff, you want to get that behind the scenes view of what happens on camera and on your favorite TV show or movie. Noel brings us behind the cameras and into the lives of two amazing people that I've really fallen in love with Cali and Jory, and I'm excited to have her here. Noel, welcome to Living Next Chapter. Nice to have you here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. Stretched you as a reader, what does that mean? What do you mean it stretched you as a reader?
Okay, well, I'm a historical fiction guy. I love predictable and kind of like, this thing and this and then this happened. And then I, as an audiobook listener, first of all, congratulations, a great book. Love your audiobook voice for your book. But as an audiobook listener, I'm looking around going, does somebody know what I'm listening to right now? Because, oh my gosh, there took a turn, and I'm like, this is very interesting. I'm learning something here. So there's a lot to learn in this book.
Yes, there are many things. Well, shout out to the audiobook narrator, who's Maxine Mitchell. She did a fantastic job, and she's got a huge fan base, and people love her. And I completely understand why. And yeah, there's a thing about, on TikTok and on Instagram when women are listening to audiobooks of romance novels, like what would the people around her think if they knew what she was listening to. Yeah. And I think it's true. It's like people, back in the day when romance novels were, considered trashy, people would put other books around the romance books so that they didn't think like if they were on the subway or the bus or whatever. And now everybody's just flying their flag and saying, I'm reading this and I don't care if there's sex in it and you should be reading it too.
There you go. Okay, well, I have to ask this right off the bat because I don't want to forget this question. Yeah. In the story, we have Cali and Jory, and we're going to get into more of the story behind them. But I wanted to ask this right off the bat. They go to this, Jory is at this like really kind of trendy burger shop, placing in order, and here comes Cali, and they meet each other at this neutral place. Mm-hmm. And the topic about toppings on a hamburger comes up. And you get a little insight to who Cali is, and one of the main characters in your book, and you get a little insight to Jory, gentleman on the set as well. And their very different approach to toppings on a burger. Mm-hmm. I'm curious for you, Noel, what are your favorite toppings on a burger as it relates to your book?
That's such a good question. My gosh. I'm okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I am often a traditionalist because I like the meat. Like to me, the meat is the draw, right? Yeah. Right. But if I'm going fancy on it, and this burger place does exist. It's called Vortex Burgers in Atlanta, and you can literally get the craziest toppings. And when I was shooting in Atlanta, because I did a gig in Atlanta, we would go there, and I was just shocked of what you could get on this burger. So this burger that Cali gets is a real burger. It's called the Elvis Burger. It's fried plantains, it's peanut butter and bananas, I think. What was the third? I can't remember what the third one is, but it's a real burger. I had to change the name of the store in the book, so there weren't any issues. But the host of the show that I was working on got that burger. And I was like, are you crazy? That sounds disgusting. And then it just started this whole conversation. So I don't go for crazy toppings, but if I'm being fancy, I like avocado, I like Swiss cheese, I like mushrooms, like stir fried, like fried mushrooms.
Yeah.
I like that. Some people put onion rings on their burgers. See, it's America, right? We're Canadian,
Yeah,
both of
we're
us.
Canadian,
We're Canadian.
yeah.
So we're not used to the more adventurous, let's say, Epicurean stylings of Americans. They really love to put stuff together that you wouldn't necessarily think should go together.
Right.
And so this is part of what Callie loves, right? She's like, oh my gosh, I'm down here. I'm going to try this. I love peanut butter. I love hamburgers. Why wouldn't they go together? And Jory, as you know, is the traditionalist, and he's just got a straight burger with lettuce and tomatoes. And, he says, well, there's secret sauce. And Callie was like, oh my God, secret sauce.
Secret sauce.
That's amazing.
I would hear that.
Yeah. So it was a device that I used to kind of show how they approach the world differently. And I had a lot of fun with that scene. I think you can use those very simple day-to-day interactions to really show who your characters are. And that's what I wanted to do with those two.
It felt really unexpected, unplanned, this whole scene, right? As you're reading and listening to it at the audiobook, you just felt like you were just kind of there in the restaurant with them and seeing this happen in real time. Cool. And the awkwardness of the moment with the two of them as well. Yeah. Right? Because they weren't prepared for that interaction. And in that moment, they're like, what do I do? What do I do? Right.
Yeah. So, right. So, but that's the joy of romantic comedies, right? It's like when you think about romantic comedies, you think about those really banal pedestrian conversations that they have. So when Harry Met Sally, when they have a conversation about faking orgasms and it turns into this whole thing, but it's like a simple conversation that explodes into something else. Pardon the pun of exploding. But these things, they are having banal conversations. Like I'm thinking of just Kissing Jessica Stein. There's a scene there where the two women talk about how they use their lipstick and how one likes to blend and the other one likes just a basic color. And it's those conversations where you're like, oh, okay, so there are these types of people. Yeah.
Excellent.
Fun.
All right. So I just wanted to bring up that part because for me that made me. I had to hit rewind on the book. By the way, just so I wanted to do it again because I was like, wait, I think I missed something in that. I want to make sure I got it all. But that was really awesome. Fun. I it was a good little, nice little nugget that I kind of walked away with. And I like that. I want to talk to Noelle about that.
Do you have any crazy burger toppings that you like?
I'm more of a Jory type person. I'm pretty predictable, and that makes my wife just shake her head like, try something new, person, come on, right? And I'm like, so what I like though is how even just that interaction around a burger topping and a menu item selection really captured kind of the two characters here as well, because that same kind of curiosity and exploration is Callie, and Jory seems to be the one person in the story that just seems to be that steady, even keeled. Not a lot of highs, not a lot of lows, just, but still kind of wrestling with some of the things that nobody knows about behind the scenes for himself as well. Right? There's a lot of depth to him. So I see that. So, I picked up on that. I loved it. Cool. I love it. So, all right. For those who haven't read the book, and you can tell Dave has, let's kind of unpack a little bit about this because basically the scene is kind of set for the book around filming of a TV series, correct? Right, and we have actors on camera. We have everybody behind the scenes that you'll see in the long list of people listed at the end of an episode. You're like, I have no idea what these people do, but there's all of these people make this magic real, and so you kind of get a little bit of everything, and you feel like you're thrown right into it as a reader as well. Like you're just like people are walking by and you don't know, they have a clipboard, you don't know why they're here. And you're like, what is happening? Like, where do I stand? Am I in the scene? No, you're not fine. Right. You just feel like as a reader, you're thrown right in there. So let's talk a little bit about the idea behind the book. Like this is your background. How much of this was part of your day-to-day going, you know what, my day-to-day could translate into a book at some point. Was there a point where you're like, how can I take this and make it that?
Well, it was more, and first, let me just say, I'm glad that you felt as a reader that you were thrown in there, because if you ever go onto a set for the first or second time, it really feels like that. It feels like there's a billion people. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know where you're supposed to stand, where you're supposed to be. I mean, the first time I was on set, I was a production assistant on a commercial. And I literally did not know where to stand, so much so that the DP called me over at one point, and I thought, oh my gosh, here's my big chance. He's noticing all the good work I'm doing. And he pulls me over and he says, you're standing in the shot. You have to move over. So I was like on camera by accident because I thought I was standing in the right place, but I was not. So it's, I'm glad that you feel that as a reader, because when you first go onto a set, it's very chaotic and confusing.
Yeah.
So I come from a TV and film background. I've worked in scripted. I've mostly worked in reality TV, which is its own beast, but I've done a lot of work in scripted in many different ways. As an actress, as a director, as a producer, as a writer, I worked in casting. I was on the crew as a location assist, as a production assistant, as I said. And so you really get you really get to know what all these jobs are, who the types of people are that get these jobs, and what the kind of rhythm of the set is. And although when I was on set doing my various work, I never really thought, oh, this would be a great novel. What happened was is that I got the bug to write a novel, and I thought, I don't want to create something I don't know. Why don't I use my experience in the scripted world and use that as my world, so I don't have to get into research of a particular world? Plus, a set is a perfect place for conflict. Conflict happens on a set almost every moment of the day,
Yeah.
because it's a very intense situation. There's multiple voices at once trying to get something done. There's a ton of money involved. You're racing against the clock all the time. It's very skilled work from whatever perspective you're working in. And there's times of absolute boredom and there's times of absolute chaos. And so as a result, it generates a lot of conflict. So I thought it was a kind of a no-brainer of a place to set a romantic comedy.
Okay, let's talk to the readers a little bit around kind of the premise of the book, in that Cali is coming in because something happened, which created an opening for her to come in and kind of basically save the day with this filming of this series. Can you kind of explain kind of the origin of how Cali ends up on set?
Yeah, sure. So Cali is a director. She's from Canada, and she's been given this kind of once in a lifetime chance to direct on this very popular TV series that's shooting in the States. And the director that was there got fired because he said some unfortunate things about the Me Too movement that had gone too far. And the production had to fire him and quickly find a female director. Now, female directors are so easy to find because they're often very, very busy, because there's only a few of them. And, you know, it's a kind of an old boys network still working in film. Like, it's mostly men. When I started writing this book, 7% of directors were women. And now it's at 12, which is better, but still not great.
No.
And so Callie gets this big break because she's a woman and they need a woman as the PR, and she's available. And she's new-ish. She's done work. She's worked on TV shows. She's worked on films, but all on the indie circuit and all up in Canada as well. So she's flown in. She doesn't have any prep time. She doesn't meet anybody before she has to walk right in on set, which is kind of rare, but because of the situation, that's what she has to do. And she's thrown right into the set, just like the reader is. She's thrown right in, and she has to make her mark right away. There's kind of an axiom in the film world that a male director, so in TV, directors only come in and do 1 or 2 episodes. The crews stay on for the whole series. The producers stay on for the whole series. But the way it's structured, directors only come in and do 1 or 2 at a time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So they're not there all the way through.
Yeah.
So she's come in to do 2 episodes. So she hasn't been given any prep time. And the axiom in TV is that a male director in TV gets the day to prove his worth to the crew, and a woman has the first scene. So when she walks in, that's like kind of whispered axioms.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pressure. So she comes in and she's like, I got to make my mark. And when she does this, she realizes that she is going to be shooting with Jory Blair, who is an A-list director of photography. Now, on paper, the director is the boss of the set.
Yeah.
Okay. But in
Yeah.
reality, the director of the photography has been there the whole time. He's established the look of the show. He's been in talks about the show from the beginning. And he's kind of like a linchpin in the set. So it's arguable who's the boss. Really, the producer is the boss. That's really who the boss is. But
Yeah.
when in between a director and director of photography, it's kind of arguable. So she realizes this guy who's an A-lister, he's considered a genius. He's also considered like really stiff and sticks to his guns. But she's had this kind of crush from afar on him for a while because his work is so good and she's been studying him for so long. And so she's quite excited. He is over it. He's over the business. He's sick of directors coming in and wrecking his vision. He doesn't want to work with a newbie, which is what he sees her as. And he doesn't want anybody messing with his show. So he's kind of over it. She's excited. She wants to make his mark. And he just says, listen, if you just make your day, that's all we need. And she's a little bit thinking, well, why wouldn't you want to change? Why wouldn't you have more toppings on your burger?
I see what you did there. I see what you did.
And then as a result, they fight. She wants to stand to her guns. He's like frustrated that she's trying to change everything. And it starts as an immediate kind of enemies situation that's rife for conflict. And that could very easily happen on any set.
I don't like the idea that women have a different time frame to make their mark on set. That seems, as somebody who doesn't understand the film industry, I don't like that.
I mean, I think it's common for a lot of things. I think any women in power, they have to prove their worth very quickly. I think it's also way worse for women of color. Like women of color have it even worse. So it's the way our society is set up. And we're all trying to fight it. We're all trying to get things to be more equal, but that takes time. And this book is a bit about how we're in the in-between time before that has actually been achieved.
So there's this undercurrent.
Yeah.
Apart from the story that I feel bubbling up as I'm reading and listening. And it's kind of that back to the fairness and having everyone's having the fair shot, a fair opportunity. Mm-hmm. You don't have to prove who you are just to have a say. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of kind of that kind of a feeling in the background as well.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, like this is a rom-com. It's meant to be light. It's meant to be fun. But I like rom-coms that have a little bit of weight to them, and so. That was my experience in the TV industry, is that there's just a kind of faint gurgling of inequality in there. And, it's to talk, the book was to say to women, hey, you're not crazy if you're feeling this. This does exist. And it's also to talk to men and saying, I know you're trying, so just try a little bit harder. It's that kind of discussion.
All right. Cali also has her sister come down to visit during the story as well. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So she's got family dynamics to work through while still navigating her career and being on set and this strange scenes and all the things she isn't prepared for. She's all that kind of, there's a lot of dynamics she's balancing at one time. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Where do you find for Cali's character that she has the strength to navigate all of these things at once?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This might sound sexist, but I think women often do have to do that.
Yeah.
I think that's like in my own life, I am constantly balancing career and creativity, and I'm a single mom, and I've got, an aging mother and all those kinds of things. Now, I did not have the same upbringing that Cali did. Cali's upbringing is quite traumatic. She was brought up by a single mom, and she had to look after her sister, and the single mom had some mental issues with depression and kind of chaotic behavior, and Cali had to make sure that she ate and that her sister ate and that they weren't put into the system. And as a result, that's kind of what's made her a good director in a way, because a director has to look after all of these people, know where everybody's emotional standpoint is, including the actors, and balance those. They have to make sure that they get the product at the end of the day, as well as make sure that the crew is happy. So it's 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 given Cali the ability to be a good director, this background, but at the same time, she still has to deal with the background, and it can be very complicated.
Yeah, I got the feeling that she takes her work home with her, and she has to direct her home life and her work
Yeah,
life at the same time, right?
yeah, that's a good insight. Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Hmm.
so
And the thing
Callie's a
she
big
has,
piece.
sorry,
Yeah,
she has to learn that she has to put up boundaries, right? She
yeah,
also has to
right.
learn, like, I don't have to do all this. I don't have to direct everybody's life. They should look after themselves. So that's something that she also has to learn.
Yeah, I would say to the readers, watch out for when Callie's sister makes an appearance in the story because it
Yeah,
causes some chaos. And
yeah,
you can tell she didn't know where to stand. Basically, let's put that in the scene.
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, the sister's a hot
yeah,
mess. The sister
yeah, a
is a
hot
hot
mess.
mess for
She came
sure.
in like a tornado. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. So Callie is one of the key main people we're going to be introduced to right away.
Hmm.
And then let's talk a little bit more about Jory as well.
Hmm.
The one thing
Hmm.
I didn't know right off the bat, no, was the age difference because I felt like when I first read about Jory that Jory was considerably older than
Hmm.
Callie because of how much she admired him and his
Hmm.
long background in the industry. And I
Hmm.
didn't really understand at the beginning kind of what the age demographic was between the
Yeah.
two of them. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about Jory as well.
A lot of romance novels really like to state ages right away. I
Yeah,
didn't want
yeah,
to because of that problem. Jory's in his mid 30s, which he's young for his job and he's
yeah,
young for what he's done. But the thing is that he was on a straight track right from the beginning and he got into the business very quickly. And in Hollywood, if you have the right luck and the right ideas and the right all the other things, then you can go to the top very quickly and you can be on some really amazing things. Like the guy who did Honora, his first film was all shot on iPhones and it was called Tangerine and it was a huge success. And I think he was
mm,
very young when he did that.
yeah,
So it is possible. And Callie's in her low 30s and this is her big break. So she's in a different place, but she had to learn on the ground. She had to learn. She couldn't go to school because of her family. She started working right away, but she started working right away in the film industry and she's very scrappy. She hustled the entire time to get where she
yeah,
was, but there's just no possible way that she would be able to get to the heights that Jory got because of her background. Um,
yeah,
and so I would say she's low 30s. He's like mid to late 30s. So that's your age difference there.
yeah.
Hmm.
And the one part that caught my attention too was just how in the story it feels like there's another undercurrent that Callie's not really aware of, and some people in the
Hmm.
story seem to be plotting against her
Mm.
success, and
Hmm.
she's completely unaware of these conversations, and
Hmm.
it felt awkward to read that, and
Mm.
I'm cheering for Callie and
Yeah.
her success, but I'm like, wait a minute, don't talk like about that, like about her like that. No, I'm getting
Yeah.
angry right as I'm listening and
Yeah.
reading, and I'm like, again, when you don't even know who's for you and who's against you in a tight family environment like a
Yeah.
film set or TV set,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
You're
Hmm.
always kind of looking over your shoulder, like, am I doing
Yeah.
it right? Am I in the right spot? Am I
Yeah.
not in the way of the camera? All these things are happening, right?
Yeah. That's very common in the film and
Yeah,
TV industry. Very common because the, how do I explain this? You never are really sure where you stand. And you can get all the accolades from everywhere and still get fired the next day. And it might have come from some other person that you have no idea why you're being fired or why you're being replaced or why you're not being asked back. It just changes all the time. So there is a level of fear with everyone in a way to make sure that you do your best job, that you please everybody, that you're easy to get along with, that you're good, because you can be replaced very easily.
yeah,
So
yeah,
so Callie feels that. She knows that something's going on. She knows something's
Right.
going on, but she has to do her best. She has to keep going forward because she's like, she also knows it could turn around the other way. She could be seen as the genius the next day. So
Yeah.
she's just putting her nose to the grindstone and working as hard as she can. And Jory knows this too. Jory has the ear of the person who is kind of
Right.
plotting against her. And he's in a difficult position because he wants a promotion. He
Yeah.
begrudgingly likes Callie's work,
Yeah.
and doesn't think it's fair that she's getting this flack. But he's in a difficult position because the person is above him and he doesn't want to anger this person either. So it's a difficult job, especially the higher up you get, the more difficult it gets.
Right.
So, yeah.
So we have authors listening to the show, Noel, and the idea of, like we talked about at the beginning, how you kind of threw us in right away at the beginning of the book onto the set, and we don't even know what we're doing there as readers. We're like, again, feeling like we're in the way. I loved how you did that.
Thanks.
How do you do that on purpose? Like, how do you bring a reader on set into your book like that and include us from the beginning? It seemed like it was very intentional from your point of view. Is there a way you can help authors to unpack a little bit about how you include an audience into the story?
Yeah, I mean, I think that first chapter had many rewrites, and it started in many different places.
Okay.
But where it eventually got to, and I think this is what most people want, is being launched right into the situation right away. It's called in medias res, like you begin in the middle. So it's exciting to start in the middle, and it's exciting to be confused about where you are, as long as it's not too confusing, you know. But it's kind of exciting to try to get your bearings as the character is trying to get their bearings. And I think that's a good way to launch a book. And people will always say you have to be grabbed from the beginning, or people will put the book down. And that's the same as a TV show. That's the same as a movie. You have to be grabbed from the first image, whether it's words or not. So the first line in the book is sex is a tricky thing. And that's because Cali, one of the reasons she's been brought on is because she really knows how to direct sex scenes, like from a standard TV film perspective. And there's a tricky sex scene that she has to shoot on her very first day in this TV series. So that gets you right in there. You know the problem. You know that she's on set, and you know that she's going to be directing something very tricky and very awkward and very sexy all at the same time. So, I think it's important to start in something exciting, and then you can explain things as you go. I think what some authors do, some authors can do it quite well, but sometimes authors feel like they need to really explain the world before you get in. And I think the world can be explained through action of what everybody's doing.
And that's why they yell action at the beginning of filming. Right?
There you go.
Yeah, let's go. We got to go. We got to go. And she's trying to prove to herself that she can do this in real time. Yeah. She's proving to everybody else that she deserves to be there. She's up against opinions, and she's up against history, right? Somebody has left, and there's all those feelings. There's attachment to the person that left, good or bad. Yep. Right? So she has to deal with that as well. There's a lot of things happening right from the beginning.
Yeah. And I think I got this really great compliment that I really loved, is that somebody said, because Callie's so full of doubt all the time, like she's like barreling through, but she's got all this doubt about her own ability and what she can do, that the compliment was, oh, this author must be a millennial, because this is how millennials think all the time. And I took that as such a compliment, because I'm not a millennial, I'm a Gen Xer. And I mean, really, we all have doubts, all of us from all the generations, all have doubts all the time. But I think, it's okay to talk about your doubts now. Like, I think people like to hear about them. So, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Any feedback that you got about the book that made you kind of go, I wasn't expecting that. That was a different perspective.
Yes. I've been getting a lot of women generally saying that they didn't like Jory off the top. They thought he was a jerk.
Really?
Yes. And all the men that have read the book are like, no, man, what are you talking about?
Such a cool guy. Yeah, no,
man, I thought it was so fascinating. So yeah, a lot of women thought that he was too hard on Cali. at the beginning. But the thing that I was trying to do with him, like, well, first of all, I find some romance novels, the guys are so dreamlike, like they're so perfect that I don't really
Hmm.
feel like they exist, and they don't have to exist. It's just a fantasy, so that's fine. But I like my men to be flawed, and so and the thing is that it's an enemies to lovers. So you got to understand why Callie thinks he's an enemy. You have to, like, it can't be just that, some goofy little thing like he got her order wrong at the burger store.
Yeah.
It's got to be something real. So yeah, he is not fun at the beginning, but there's reasons for that. He's going through a health scare.
Yeah.
He's not liking his work. He's trying to find his purpose in life, and it makes him grumpy. And Callie is a force to be reckoned with. And he's just not in the market for a force at the moment. But it's come, so he has to deal with it.
Yeah. I think his initial responses to her walking into the room and on the set, it feels a little bit like he's a little put back, kind of
Hmm.
like, oh, here we go, another one coming through the door, and I'm going to have
Hmm.
to either babysit this person or I'm going to have to, have to change everything that I do and
Hmm.
know to adapt to this new opinion,
Hmm.
and like it just feels like everyone wants to prove their abilities right from the beginning, and he seems to push back on that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you said that your wife read it. Did she have
Yeah.
anything to say about Jory?
I think she's going to side with what you just said. They're the
That's
same
so
thing,
interesting.
right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree. Was
Hmm.
that intentional, though?
I mean, I don't know. I wasn't trying to make him like I was trying to
No.
soften him. I mean,
Yeah.
he's very interested in bringing women onto the set, especially in the camera department. And the camera department is way worse than the director's department. There's hardly any women in the camera department. And he sees himself as an ally. And but it was really important for me to watch him grow. And you can't grow unless you come from a place where you need to grow. And he needed to figure out that, like, where his role was in the patriarchy of that set, to realize that he was part of it, and to realize how he needed to change his behavior to make it a more welcoming place for all voices.
How would you say Callie's story helps somebody listening to this conversation who feels like in their situation they don't belong and nobody accepts them? And they're really fighting to find a seat at the table, really. How does
Yeah.
Callie's story help somebody listening who feels that way?
I mean, that's such a good question. I really am in awe of Callie. I wish I was more like Callie because she really sticks to her guns. Um, Despite, like, she listens to people, she collaborates, but when she has an idea, she really holds on to it and she
Yeah.
really tries to make it work. And I think I think people who doubt themselves just need to keep going. Like, they need to keep going. Like, giving up, like, of course there's a point where you should give up on an idea. There's always a point where you should maybe give up. But it's it's not as bad as you think. Like, things going wrong aren't as bad as you think. Like, if they do go wrong, there's always a silver lining. There's always a way to pivot. There's always a way to, like, get your voice heard in another way. And the thing that I love about Callie is that she just keeps going. She keeps trying, even though she knows how hard it is. She can see how hard it is, but she just keeps trying because she believes in the idea more than her own ego. She's not interested in rising herself up. She wants the money for sure. She wants the
Yeah.
money and she wants the security. But she believes in the idea, and that's her best attribute, is that she thinks that the idea needs to be preserved and heightened, not herself. And that's actually something that I learned from Paul Haggis. Do you know who Paul Haggis is?
No, no.
He's Canadian, but he directed Crash. You remember that movie from the
Yeah, yeah.
2000s that won the Oscar?
Yeah.
And he wrote Million Dollar Baby,
Oh,
and he
wow.
he worked on The Facts of Life. And
Oh, of
if you
course I know
remember
that.
that Canadian show Due South, that was his show.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So he was a big guy. He's got a couple of Oscars, right?
Yeah.
And he said that when you go on, like, when you have an idea, you have to make the idea the most important thing. It's not you, it's not the crew, it's the idea. The idea has to be bowed down to. And that's what I kind of got Cali to be a champion of. And that's what makes her kind of humble, and what makes her a leader.
One thing I picked up on too is you do a good job explaining and giving some background on your characters to the point where we realize that everybody has something going on behind the scenes that doesn't present itself. And most people are unaware of it, but everyone's battling with something in the background.
Yeah.
Or has a part of their story they don't tell.
Yeah.
Even to the one point where I picked up on where Cali gets in trouble and gets called into the office, and behind the desk of the person who's now disciplining, there's pictures of family. And it's like, I didn't even know you had a family. And right there, it's like everybody has a story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some are told, some are not.
Yeah.
Some are on full display, some are hidden, well hidden, like Jory. But everybody's dealing with something.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, for sure. That's,
Right.
I mean, that's what's interesting, and it's what gives us empathy. You know, they say that people who read books are more empathetic than other people who don't. And it's when you're given those glimpses of other people, then you know that nobody's just being a hard ass, or nobody's just being weak or silly. There is something going on with them. They're people. We all have something going on in the background. And the person that you're talking about, Melanie, is the producer. She's got so much going on with her work. But she is a single mom. She's got a kid at home, and her backstory is that she doesn't tell anybody. She doesn't offer the information because she knows moms usually get pigeonholed and they don't get work.
Right.
Because people think, oh, they can't commit because they're moms. They have kids at home.
Yeah.
So that's her little backstory, is that she has to put all of her work on focus, and she doesn't tell anybody that she has a son. And I've known people in the business who have done that because they're afraid that they won't get work if they know that there's a kid at home.
Interesting. And without connecting the dots, you're a single mother. And I'm like, Like when I read that and knowing your story and I read that scene, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't want to write for you, but that just, for me, that made me kind of go, it's a little nod there, just a little nod.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote that character before I became a single mom, but I knew I had heard so many stories about that, and that's a real worry. That's a real thought, you know, of that women have to deal with. So yeah,
and in that's unfair to see again. Let's go back to the beginning. That men don't have to deal with that at the same level.
No,
all the
not
time,
at all.
and have to stand up and say, well, you have a divided interest between home and work. You don't hear that quite often. So
no.
Again, not fair.
Yeah. I know. It would be nice to hear that. It's like if you ask men, well, are you sure you can commit to this job because you have a couple of kids at home? That would be nice to hear. You know?
Okay. Yeah, all through the book, what I'm noticing, it just feels like at times your characters feel like they're overruled. Sometimes they're bullied. Sometimes they're redirected. Sometimes their decisions are taken away from them, given to somebody else, and they lose their say. There's a lot of that seems to be happening as well. People kind of over you, making decisions about your work and excluding you from the process. Everyone, I would think, would be a pretty creative person to be on set, from lighting to cameras to script to acting, everything. They're very creative people. And in that space, there's probably a lot of, even though there's a family atmosphere of everybody being together, and that comes in the book, but there's still probably, every family fights to some degree. So there's got to be a little of that tension with a bunch of creative people all in one space. Right?
Yeah. There's a lot of tension because you can be as creative as you want, but if you can't afford it or if you don't have the time to do it, then sorry, you can't do it. And this is where Jory and Cali come in. So there's a scene where Cali wants this particular visual setup, and she wants it, and Jory says, you can't do that because it's like basically the bad guy who comes in is all, I mean, he looks like a bobblehead because of the way that the shot is.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, what if we do this? And what if we do that? And he's like, well, because of if you did this, this happens and this happens. So you get the idea that she's very creative and Jory is also very creative, but he's already thought through all of her options. And she's very frustrated because she wants this thing to go through. He's very frustrated because she's not listening to him, that it can't work. And so it's that's the conflict that we're talking about. Like you can have, this is where Cali needed to step down because she had these ideas and it wasn't going to work and nothing they did was going to make it work. And she should sit, like he should overrule her in this
Yeah.
situation. So it's, like I said, any like TV film in any case is so many voices. It's so much money. There's so much going on at all times. There's always someone above you. And that's what makes it such a charged environment is that
Yeah.
there's so many voices. And that happens all the time. There's like creativity and it needs to be shut down. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
like it's like, oh my gosh, this is the idea. And this is when Cali and Jory really come together, is when they are really speaking to each other, their creativity explodes together. And that's what also brings them together as a couple.
Yeah, and you're cheering them on. At the beginning, you're like, these two don't seem to be getting along. And then you can see the relationship develop over time. And then you're like, wait a minute, I think something's going to happen. From the burger, that was my key moment for me.
Yes!
The burger scene. I'm like,
Yes.
something's changing in the dynamic of this relationship.
Yeah, you're right. That's the moment. That's the moment when it changes.
I did my
Dave.
homework. Are you proud of me? I did my
I'm so
homework.
proud.
Yay! Now, I did hear you on other shows. You're everywhere, which is amazing. I
Thank
heard
you.
some really fun interviews of you on other shows. I'm glad to have you here. I do pick up on the fact that you have new things coming down the road as well.
I do, yes.
My podcast is Living the Next Chapter. So
Yes.
it's in the name of the show.
Yes.
So I do like to ask my guests, because my audience loves to know when authors are working on new projects.
Yes.
So we can continue to support you in the future.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little insight on maybe what we can expect in the future?
Well, I've got something on submission right now, which is a completely different series. And it is a time travel series where, it's fun. I had this idea of, like the Bridgerton people, that show Bridgerton.
Yeah.
That, this woman who lives in West Hollywood just wakes up and there's like a Bridgerton dude passed out in her closet. And she doesn't know how he got there. She doesn't know what's going on. Happens all the time. It's LA. But he's traveled, spoiler, I think we all know from the beginning, he's traveled through time and they have to figure out the hijinks ensues essentially. So it's more of a speculative fiction series that's on submission. So we'll see how that goes. And then there's a second book in the works for Love Camera Action between the two actors. So we'll see about that. But I've got some other stuff kind of brewing.
All right. Excellent. Well, I could talk to you all day, but I know you have things to do, and I really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for the book, and again for the audiobook. I would tell everybody to get both, because what I like to do is actually, it's weird, I guess, but I like to have the book and have the audiobook as well, and I'm kind of reading along with the audiobook, because I pick up on things differently. Or again, right, because I have it here, I can see what's coming, but then I'm like, oh. And then I can rewind it and listen to it again, like the burger scene, right, and all that. But I like the two of them together. So we'll sell more books and sell more audiobooks by doing so. But I would encourage everyone to do both.
That's great. I love that.
I would also encourage everyone, as you buy a copy of Love Camera Action, that you leave a great review.
Oh,
because I know Noel would love to hear your thoughts about the book as well.
I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you want to have a debate about Jory, then we'll have a debate. Yeah. But Dave, I want to thank you so much for having me on and reading the book and your wife reading the book. That's really awesome. So thank you.
Yes, you did cause some marital strife, I mentioned, by having only one book to read and share between the two of us. But it has sparked some conversations, Noel.
Good.
So
I'm glad.
Well done for you. Thank you for that. But yeah, it's a great book. It is very steamy, very sassy, and very smart. And that's right from your website. But yeah, it is. And it lasts, and it's true. So, Noel, thank you so much for doing this. Come back in the future.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Follow up and see
definitely.
what's next.
Yes, definitely. Thanks so much, Dave.
Everyone, all information, as always, you know where to find it in the show notes. Again, leave your review. Let Noel know what you think of the book, the audiobook, and all great things from Noël Stark. Thanks, Noel.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Glad to have you here. I just want to let you know that you can always find out what we're doing live in the moment by going to our YouTube channel. Head over to livingthenextchapter.com. There'll be a link right there. Head over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things that all the YouTubers love to say. And in our YouTube channel, a couple things. You're going to get advanced listens. You're going to get the episodes that we're working on in real time. So we record and post daily on our YouTube channel. I'd love for you to give us a follow over there. As well, we're making playlists. We have over 500 episodes. So finding the right episode for you, we're trying to group things into playlists. So if you like children's books, if you like business, you like historical fiction, we're grouping our authors together to make it a little easier for you to find your favorite next author. So head over to livingthenextchapter.com. And again, I'd love to hear from you. Hearing from the listeners of the show is great. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of the podcast family. And I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time and your listen. Take care.